Welcome to this bumper edition of the Summit. I'm your host, Shola Jay. George Santayana, a writer and philosopher, is believed to be the one that originally said, "Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it." Today, we shall go back in time to do a dispassionate analysis of the year 2017, focusing on the most important events that affected Nigerians, to see what we can learn. In our view, this is very important. Although 2018 is already 3 months old, we believe it is not too late to do soul searching, especially in order to avoid pitfalls and utilize opportunities for enhancing the quality of life in this great nation. I have 3 patriotic Nigerians in the studio to take us through this discussion, which promises to be scintillating. You will meet them after this interesting documentary. Please don't go away.
Anyhow you look at it, the year 2017 was a very interesting year. At least for the first 3 weeks of that year, all eyes were focused on the United States of America as the swearing-in ceremony of the then President-elect Donald John Trump drew closer. The first few days of 2017 was filled with even more suspense because the Electoral College votes cast 2 weeks earlier on the 19th of December 2016 were scheduled to be counted on the 6th of January. After that last hurdle was crossed, Donald Trump was on his way to being inaugurated as the 45th President of the United States, and the whole world heaved a sigh of relief as they prepared to encounter an unpredictable American president that was sure to shake the world like only a few others before him. Back home in Nigeria, the year began on a sad note with news of outbreak of meningitis, which lasted for about 6 months and was not successfully contained until it had claimed 1,166 lives across 24 states. Unfortunately, out of a total of 14,513 cases recorded, almost 7,000 affected children between the ages of 5 and 14 years. Zamfara, Sokoto, and Katsina were the 3 most affected states, accounting for almost 90% of the cases. Before 2017 ended, Nigeria almost faced health challenges from the sudden and inexplicable outbreak of monkeypox. Unlike meningitis, the monkeypox epidemic affected 14 states, mostly from the south. Then there were massive cholera outbreaks in several states, which later spread to an IDP camp in Borno State, hosting about 20,000 persons. There was also an outbreak of hepatitis E, as well as Lassa fever, yellow fever, and measles. However, the biggest news of 2017 was the medical vacation of President Muhammadu Buhari, which nearly upset the political balance of Nigeria due to the uncertainty it generated. President Buhari first left the country for United Kingdom on medical leave on January 15, 2017. He requested an extension of the medical leave and returned to the country on March 10, 2017. Upon return, the president avoided the public for about 3 weeks and finally proceeded on an indefinite medical leave in early May. He spent 103 days and suddenly returned a day after protests were scheduled to take place in the United Kingdom by a group screaming, "Return or resign," as their mantra. One notable thing that took place during Muhammadu Buhari's absence was the signing of the 2017 budget, which had to be done by then acting President Professor Yemi Osinbajo on the 12th of June. Several other remarkable events took place within the year 2017. Walter Samuel Nkanu Onnoghen was sworn in as Chief Justice of Nigeria in March after a delay that created some uncertainty in the polity. 2 days after the new Chief Justice of Nigeria was sworn in, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) announced dates for the 2019 general elections. It later released a detailed timetable in January 2018. During the second quarter of the year, the country had its first good news when the National Bureau of Statistics reported that the economy had exited its period of recession. In 2017, there was also a serious effort to recall Senator Dan Dino Melaye. That effort is still ongoing. A minister in the Muhammadu Buhari cabinet, Aisha Al-Hassan, openly pledged her support to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, claiming that she was present when then-candidate Buhari promised that he will only serve one term. During Operation Python Dance, launched by the Nigerian Army, IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu went missing. He has not been seen since then. An earlier operation, tagged Operation Crocodile Smile, was able to contain militancy in the Niger Delta region, which was on the verge of going up in flames, following threats by several militant groups. This achievement by the Nigerian Army was responsible for stabilizing Nigeria's crude oil production, which had dwindled dangerously. The People's Democratic Party won its case at the Supreme Court, bringing a welcome end to a nerve-wracking period of uncertainty. This victory saved the party from a nasty split and sent Ali Mudu Sheriff, head of the invalid faction, into destination unknown. Shortly after PDP's Supreme Court victory, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who had left the PDP for the APC, returned to his former party and even attended a convention of the party held in August. The second and third tranches of the Paris Club refund were paid to state governments within the year 2017. Anti-grazing laws were passed by both Benue and Taraba states, following the passage of a similar law in Ekiti State in 2016. Probably as an effect of the poor economy, there were several suicide attempts by Nigerians, notably by a senior civil servant in Kogi State, who hung himself shortly after his wife gave birth to triplets. On the 1st of July, the Federal Inland Revenue Service launched the Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, known as VADES, which is a 9-month tax amnesty initiative aimed at improving compliance. Several senators and members of the House of Representatives cross-carpeted from PDP to the APC, changing demographics of the National Assembly. In 2017, there was a dangerous encounter between security operatives of the EFCC and the personnel of the DSS, who almost engaged one another in a shooting duel outside the house of the former DG of the DSS. Shocking details of monies allegedly stolen by the former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Mrs. Desiani Alison Madueke, were released by the EFCC, even though some figures, like $90 billion, made some people wonder if the EFCC was not playing to the gallery. The budget padding exercise that threatened the 2016 budget was repeated in 2017, as then acting President Yemi Osinbajo said while signing that budget that the 2017 padding was not as bad as that of 2016. Mr. David Babachir Lawal, former secretary to the government of the Federation, was involved in a 200 million naira grass-cutting contract scandal. Some months later, apparently in response to sharp criticism by Nigerians, Boss Mustafa was appointed. The new SGF and Babachir was sacked. To the relief of football fans, Nigeria qualified for the 2018 FIFA World Cup. In November 2017, INEC successfully conducted the Anambra State elections, which gave the incumbent, Willie Obiano, a second term in office. Mr. Abdul Rashid Maina, who was declared a fugitive by the country's anti-corruption body, was reabsorbed into the civil service and subsequently promoted, leading to a brief period of infighting within the cabinet of President Buhari. In 2017, Nigerians launched a spirited campaign to expose atrocities in the Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigerian Police. Through the Twitter campaign, and SARS now. From the world of business, Etisalat became Nine Mobile due to a debt crisis. From the world of entertainment, the sad news was the breaking up of the singing sensation P-Square. After a long delay, appointments into boards of government departments were finally announced on the 29th of December. On the international scene, Emmanuel Macron was elected President of France. President Trump recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Some notable people that died in 2017 were the former DG of NACA, Professor Babatunde Oshotimehin, Kim Jong-nam, half-brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, Helmut Kohl, former Chancellor of Germany, and David Rockefeller, American philanthropist and businessman.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that little clip on this bumper edition of the summit. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like for you to meet our guests. Garba Shehu happens to be the advisor, the senior special advisor to President Muhammadu Buhari in media and publicity, and is also a veteran journalist and former president of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Deji Adeyanju. He's a co-convener at Mumu Dondu, and also convener of Concerned Nigerians, a pro-democracy group dedicated to rule of law, good governance, and anti-corruption. And also, we also have a journalist and media personality in the person of Stanley Bento. Many times we want to start a show by looking at the different angles, but this particular one is called Echoes of 2017. Why are we doing the show in March? I think it's important because we want to learn from what happened in 2017 so that we don't repeat them in 2018 and 2019. The one major thing that comes across is, of course, that literally occupied most of what happened in 2017, and that was the absence of our president, Buhari. And the thing that actually comes across very quickly again is that when he went on his medical leave, it was said that the jet that he went in was parked at a cost of almost £4,000 per day. And that is exclusive of the staff. We're talking of the crew and everybody else. You know, it's very interesting when he now came back, and everyone was expecting that the cost after staying 103 days in England at the Stansted where the plane was parked. One will tell us the total cost of what the trip actually came to. But I think the governor of Central Bank came out to say that that cannot be an open declaration. Why was this so secretive, especially when Nigerians bore the cost of his trip?
Well, first of all, let me say, if I knew this question was going to arise, I would have done, I would have done my research.
Okay.
Because let me tell you this. If it is about the aircraft, you have two scenarios playing out on the international scene. One is that if a plane is conveying head of state, president, it gets an automatic waiver on those charges. If it is presidential delegation, people other than presidents, they are charged. Yes, we were informed that there may have been about £1,000 per day charge. But the last I heard of this was when the commander of the Presidential Air Fleet informed me that as at that time they were talking to the British authorities and that a waiver was being sought. That's why I said if you had informed me this question was going to arise, I would have simply called him to say, did you get the waiver or did you pay money?
But you will agree with me that between the time that the president came back and now. Much of that information should have been somewhere in the open. That's where they got a waiver, because if people are saying it costs £4,000 to park the jet per day.
1,000.
No, there's 4,000.
4,000 plus.
I mean,
Okay,
pounds.
well, it depends on the information available to you.
Right. See,
That's
the,
what
the one thing, well, you are head of publicity. The one thing that you want to get out in the open as quickly as possible will be, let's clear that up.
No, sir. The idea would have been we give information on need to know on when being asked. If you as a journalist had come to me to say, so how much? I would simply lift my phone and ask the question.
So is this your first time of knowing that?
This is the first time I'm being asked since the return of the president,
that
how much?
How much?
Yeah.
It costs £4,000.
Yeah, well,
Per day.
the record available to me was £1,000 per day.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
As told to me, as I was informed by the president, commander of the presidential air fleet. You probably have your source of information different from my own.
Well, I mean, we research as much as we can. And if it's out there, I think you've just only equally said it's £4,000.
Yes, over 4,000 pounds per
Okay.
day.
See, so what other information do you have that we don't have?
Yes, you see, the trip of the president cost the country over £3 million. And Sahara Reporters and other media organizations have come with verifiable information and data to back this up. And while Deborah was talking, I was just doing a little analysis on my own. If at over 4,000 pounds per day, it means that for 103 days of the president stayed in the UK, it cost Nigeria over 409,000 pounds for just the presidential jet. They had nothing less than 20 staffs who went with the president. So hotel accommodation per night, let's say the least hotel accommodation per night was at £1,000. So, and you had 20 people. That means every day it cost Nigeria £20,000 every day, for hotel, just accommodation for those staffs. Then it means that we're talking about for the 103 days that the president stayed abroad, we're talking about close to £2.3 million on hotel. We're not talking about feeding. We're not talking about logistics. We're not talking about hospital bills for the president. So you see that then again, the president had so many guests. Ministers were being ferried from here to the UK. Even the party chairman, the APC party chairman, and governors of both the opposition and the ruling party went to the UK. So this must have cost Nigeria so much money. You understand? So you look at all the costs. You look at the flight crew. You look at their feeding. You look at then we begin to ask ourselves, why was there when the government knew the president was going to be there for such a long time? Why did we have to park the jet there? Why didn't the jet just come back home? And when you look at the total cost and you look at the secrecy in which the whole episode was shredded, then you begin to ask yourself, were these not the same people that promised to be different from Jonathan, from PDP? Because we remember how voracious they were during the PDP era, when even the former president went for a conference, and because he was late to the conference, we saw how they viciously attacked him. So again, during the whole episode, our movement led the Resume or Resign campaign at the Unity Fountain. Presidential aides told us that we didn't even have the right to ask about the whereabouts of the president. That we didn't even have the right to ask, that the president is an adult, and that the president does not owe any explanation.
We know that is, especially those who love the president, they have a right to defend him. Brother Benton, what is your take on this?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that President Buhari had, whether the cost is £4,000 per day or whether it's £1,000 per day, is that he was sold to Nigerians as a candidate who was very prudent and who was very frugal, or at least very careful and cautious about expenditure. So when you look at the medical expenses, lots of Nigerians became a bit confused and frustrated as to, why it needed to cost so much, particularly when you look at, not too long ago, a few years ago, when the British MPs were involved in certain scandals about expenditure, and you were talking about representatives spending £300 to renovate a swimming pool or £200 to do this and that. And there was so much outrage spilt over that. And so when a lot of Nigerians looked at what the possible medical costs of the president being away, particularly when you look at the extended period that he was away for. You know, on the one hand, I think a lot of people were genuinely concerned and wanted the president to be healthy, to be well taken care of. But there were eyebrows are bound to be raised
in the area of accountability.
In the area of cost.
Yeah, well, that is accountability.
Yeah.
As a radio talk show host, what were you getting from your audience?
Well, it was a mixed bag because you had the responses. I think what I got was that Nigerians were genuinely concerned about the president's health, including those who may not have been in support of him. Of course, we will not rule out that there were many people who tried to make a political meal out of it, which is very unfortunate. But genuine questions were asked about more information being put out there. People were concerned about the secrecy or the apparent secrecy around the health of the president. A lot of people wanted to know what ails the president. But I must point out here, in fairness to the president, it is not new for leaders of countries to hide their medical status. Absolutely. If you look at John F. Kennedy, he was riddled with all kinds of ailments. And at the time he was president, very few Americans actually knew the extent that he was even half the time on amphetamines, and he had to even function while he was highly medicated. You had Franklin Roosevelt, who was crippled and in a wheelchair, and he refused to allow himself to be photographed in a wheelchair, because when you are a man of power in leadership position, you know, any sign of weakness can actually be trampled upon. So, in my personal view, it is understandable to some extent. But the other side of the coin is that we live in the age of information now, Absolutely. And it's very difficult for you to keep information away from the public. And the difference between what is happening in Nigeria and what would happen in the United States is even the president's medical condition would be not secretive, but classified. Classified meaning that it would be filed somewhere and it would be made public at a later date. But it will not escape being made public.
Some people still say that the president is a little frail. He looks healthy though, but he's still frail. What is, I mean, are you in a position to tell us about his condition?
Well, before I come to that, I think that if you permit, we need to bring to help our viewers also with some hint about some of the international practices dealing with the leaders. Wherever leaders go, their security is of interest to their own nations. If the Queen of England will go to Australia, they will not drop her in Australia and come back. The Air Force of Nigeria has a duty to not only to fly the president, they are also interested in his well-being and to be concerned in case there is need for an emergency, evacuation for instance. So therefore, where they have such aircraft, they wait for them and they bring them back. And in this particular instance, as I said, yes, you also needed to be concerned whether not only of matters of safety, but the fact of a possible evacuation. One way or the other, you never know how it will happen. And to say that, that the people of this country were not allowed to ask questions or to talk about the president's absence, as Mr. Diju said, I think that is hyperbolic because, well, the thing is that the president of Nigeria did something that other leaders haven't done. I am a witness. Mr. Namadi Sambo, Vice President of Nigeria, visited Professor Oshibanjo, his equivalent in office, said, congratulations that you are acting as president. For all of the 7 years I was here, I never acted for one day. So that's extraordinary things that somebody had. President handed power to the vice president. And he left to go and take care of himself. Okay. So the thing then is that the right thing had been done. And I would have thought that, then the focus would have been, is the constitution of it. Excellent.
Yeah, but while you're saying that, there are not so many countries that will have their presidents go, at least not in the modern age, have their presidents go to another country and stay put for over 103 days.
For medical tourism.
So basically...
But the constitutional position is If you are not available, the vice president, and this country has 3 arms of the constitution,
No, but
3 arms of government.
We understand that. We understand that.
President, vice president.
Yeah, we understand that. However, should the question have even arisen at all that a plane will be parked for 103 days?
That's why I told you. So I said to you that it had to be there. One international practice is that nobody leaves the head of state stranded. That's one. There has to be an exit strategy.
No, but would the head of state really be stranded?
It could be.
No, but seriously, a person in this caliber, how many aircraft?
As a Nigerian citizen, how would
and
you
the relationship between Nigeria and the United Kingdom, could he ever have been stranded?
If it could happen, Murphy's law. If anything could happen, it would happen at the worst possible moment.
So, for the president to be stranded.
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave that. Let's leave that the way it is. Basically, because we don't want to go into areas that look like you have a certain explanation and we don't understand it from just a layman point of view. But if you have any more information on that, please clear it. The question, the next question is this. The president was absent for nearly, the APC government has been in power for close to 3 years. And out of those 3 years, he's been absent from office for about 200 days. Correct?
Yes.
Now, do you feel that part of the flack that he's getting from the public resulted from his long-term absence in these 3 years? We know the vice president took over. You've just corrected that the Constitution was at play. So the vice president came to the rescue as the Constitution will allow. However, do you think that those 200 days may be affecting his ability now to be able to deliver his promises to the Nigerian public?
Of course. You see, we haven't learned, because we're doing a reappraisal, we haven't learned anything. Because Malam Garba Shehu cannot tell us, as we are, how many people traveled with the president on that trip for the 103 days. Many people have said almost 50 people, including the security people, traveled with him. But I even said, let me be modest and say 20. If we put it at 20, to maintain the 20 aides and security and whoever, which we know that's not, they will definitely be more than 20. It will be like 2-point-something million pounds just for accommodation, not feeding. Then we're talking about, for the 103 days, Malam Garba Shehu cannot tell us that this was what it cost Nigeria for the president's medical bill per day in the hospital. Because this will be running into millions of pounds. So, Malam Garba Shehu, and just like when you started with the introduction, this government has not come clean. It does not see the need to be transparent with the Nigerian people. It does not see the need to show that the people that this mandate that you've given us, we are indeed accountable to this mandate. And when you look at all the things that surround every time that the president went abroad to seek for medical help, which has been now been referred to medical tourism, the president, he was always shrouded in secrecy. Initially, they were always denying that the president was traveling for medical help. They will arrange a program and make the president go to London. In the process, the president will go and see his doctors. And that's what they are planning now for next month. There's a Commonwealth program next month. The president is sick again. He wants to go to London again. The program is for 2 days, but the president is going to stay for more than 4 weeks. That's what they're planning again. And it's still the same problem that we faced in 2017 that we're going to face again.
Well, we know you still have quite a bit to say, but let's go for a quick break. When we come back, we will allow Garba to wade in.
Sure.
And Stanley, I'm sure you have quite a few things to say. Welcome back. We're still dealing with echoes of 2017. Hopefully, with the gentleman here with me, we'll learn a thing or two. Before we went on break, you were talking about Nigeria not learning anything from what transpired
in 2017,
yes, regarding the presidential medical trip. Garba, what is your take on that?
Well, it depends on what he wants Nigerians to learn and he wants to be the beneficiary of the lesson. This is the president who traveled with the one plane. The president before him traveled with 3 planes each time he traveled. If you are talking about accountability coming out to say, this is what is ailing me, I hope that even though one happens, you would concede it to individuals that as human beings, yes, they must be entitled to some measure of privacy. And if it doesn't get in the way of the job, I think this is what we should focus upon instead of being, trying to belittle, positions like that. But the president did the right thing, handed full executive powers to the vice president of Nigeria. So what do you want?
No, but Garba.
And in any case, if you're talking about precedents, things that have happened over time in the past, without meaning to be insensitive, do you know that this country lost a first lady in the surgeon's theater abroad when perhaps people didn't even know that there was such a journey? And do you know that a lot of them, including make-up surgeries, had been done on first ladies of this country in order that they looked good for campaigns? And they were brought back here and we just paid the bills. So the thing is, I think that, let us look back and look forward.
No, Garba, we understand where you're going. We understand clearly where you're going. However, you will understand Nigerians' yearnings for transparency. And one of the reasons, because, President Buhari had been vying for this position forevermore. When he came in, for many, they saw desire. They saw somebody who was going to correct all the ills.
Yes.
When something like this is happening, nobody expects that he will not have some modicum of privacy. What they're saying is, let out certain information, let the people, nobody's asking him to declare everything that his problem has or his problem is, but give us some room. Isn't that what he's saying? I mean, Stanley.
Well, first of all, I want to backtrack a little bit and very strongly disagree with one of the things that Garba said, which is that I don't think that there's anything extraordinary about the president handing over power to the vice president. He mentioned that it was the first time. It was the first time because it was a constitutional requirement. It hadn't happened before, but if you recall back in 2010, there was no constitutional requirement that a president must hand over. So the previous presidents were not actually breaking any law by not handing over. But there was a problem that emerged, and therefore it led to the doctrine of necessity, where the Senate had to take steps. And to make sure that that problem didn't reoccur, they now introduced it into our Constitution, that if the president is going to be away on vacation, he must hand over to the vice president. So the president essentially was just following the rules. For him not to have handed over would have been a breach of the Constitution. So I don't want to read more into that than what it is. That is simply, of course, the question as to whether a president can effectively hand over power is up in the air. I'm not sure that I totally agree with the doctrine of necessity. I think the previous constitution had already made it clear as to steps to be taken. And the problem is that sometimes our leaders lack the character to do what they need to do when they need to do it. And so we need to begin to inject things, because just to make another example with the United States Constitution, how do you, the US president is a man who has the nuclear launch codes. He's the only one who has it. And then there's the man who, they call him the man with the football, who basically has the casing, where only the president has that. So it is virtually impossible for a US president to transmit full executive power to anyone else. The power is vested in him. Because for him to even transmit it to his vice president means there would have to be new nuclear launch codes. They're printed on a card. He keeps it in his wallet on his person every single time. So you cannot, and this raises, coming back to the Nigerian question, it raises the question as to whether a Nigerian president can fully transmit power, whether Vice President Oshibajo was fully in charge, because whether you like it or not, there would be some critical issues that he would have to seek counsel from the president. There would be several things he may not be able to do. If it was the president that set up his executive council, the president knows why he set up that council. It would be a bit foolhardy of the vice president to shake up that council, even though legally it may read that he has the power to do so. Okay. But there's a dilemma there. So that is the question. But following that, here we have I think the hope for Nigerians was that President Buhari would make a change here. And the change meaning, I remember during the early days, his early days in presidency, he made comments about complaints about public officials actually traveling out of the country.
During the 2015 campaign, indeed, the APC made several allusions to the fact that they will end medical. It will be different in medical tourism. This is not. It's not an episode to bash APC, because for everything you can say about APC, you can almost say 10 of those were PDP.
Sure.
The people came in. However, a recent situation brought this again to the fore, and that is when the president's son, Yusuf, had an accident on a power bike. Of course, like any first family, Nigerians have to bear the medical costs. However, the issue of people traveling abroad, rather than strengthening the medical facilities in this country, played itself out.
Yes, again, once again.
Right?
Yes.
Once again.
Yes.
Take it from there.
You see, Garba Shehu said something. He said Buhari has right to his privacy. No, he does not. He's the president, commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The minute he took the oath of office, he gave up his privacy.
The Nigerians. Is there anything in the Constitution that says he does not have his own privacy?
Which part of the Constitution?
Hold on, let me get to that.
Yes.
You see, the president is duty bound to tell Nigerians all that he does with their resources. He's duty bound, because Garba Shehu went further to say, the president is a private citizen. He has a right to his privacy, I oppose to that, and I say the president is not a private citizen. The president is a public official. And what he asked, what does Nigeria want? Nigerians, they want the truth. We want Garba Shehu and this government to tell us how much did it cost Nigeria for the president's trip in 2017. We want to know how much was paid for the hospital bills. We want to know how much was paid for hotel accommodation. We want to know how much was paid for the, for parking the plane at Stansted. We want to know how much was used for feeding. We want to know the total cost of that trip, because they are trying to replicate the trip again this coming month. Now, coming back to the issue of medical tourism, you see, the president said change begins with me. He started the campaign of change begins with me. The president specifically, there was a circular that the president passed about public officials traveling abroad for medical treatment. The president banned public officials from traveling for medical treatment abroad. The president came and he became the first one to break that circular by going himself. It was in 2016 that circular was passed. I remember vividly, if you can recall. I remember vividly.
Please.
Then again, after the circular.
No. Speak on facts that you have.
It's a fact.
It's in
the news.
You say there was no circular.
Where is the circular?
You have it. You should provide us the circular.
There was a directive. There was a directive.
So take my word. There's no circular.
There was a directive.
There was a directive.
Well, let me say this.
That the government would no longer
say there was a
yes, I do.
Let me say to you, he said there was a circular.
Yes.
Say to the circular.
No, you should be giving us Garba.
Okay.
You should be giving us the circular.
Let's go back to real substance.
No, okay. You see, the truth is, I have not finished making my point. The truth is that Senator John McCain was sick. Senator John McCain is not the president of the United States of America. He came clean and said, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I have brain tumor. This president came on board that he's a honest man. He's a man that has integrity. Jonathan cannot be a yardstick for judging this president, because if we begin to use Jonathan as yardstick for judging this president, it means the president has failed, because that's what Jonathan was trying to do.
I think that you're very hyperbolic in manner of speaking. You like to speculate and speak on facts that you don't have, and facts that are not there. Do you know the entire personal staff that the president has is 24? All of us, including myself, Femi additional. I said you took 50%. What would he do with 50? And in any case,
No,
we had the chance.
He said
if we were going to, let me say,
yeah.
if we were going to replace everyone's staff that was in place, Buhari would have appointed 150 persons around himself. And what I talk about expenses, this is a man, even when he was ill, he stayed in the Nigerian High Commission.
Okay, how much was given
not
to
paying
people,
bills.
How much was given
We're
to
not paying bills. This house would have been would have remained unoccupied if you had used it.
Aside the hotel bill, the medical bill, the accommodation,
So,
the feeding, how much was this government
president
giving
himself,
to each person for extra code per day? How much were they giving?
The president himself.
On the London
Is it
street?
Ghana that paid his medical bills?
Which medical treatment did he go for?
His wife.
Which medical treatment? Which medical treatment did she go for? State the obvious. Because you asked
Is it
us.
South Africa that paid?
You asked us. You said, "What do Nigerians want? We want the truth, Garba."
The truth
is
the
how
thing
much?
is that
How
if
much
you
was
have
the extra code?
Go through
that was paid?
FIOA. This country has a Freedom of Information Act. Go
here-
through that.
but here
Apply
is
for
a
the
challenge.
information. You'll get it.
But here is it. I'm challenging you.
But here is a challenge.
You
that
want
we
the
have.
information.
How much
Go
was
to court.
paid?
File for FOII.
No, wait a minute.
Get the information
Wait a
you
minute.
want.
You really need to go to court to get an information.
well-
The government that says it's transparent.
Now,
It's honest.
yes,
Really?
we stand accused of failing to give that information. Go to
Can I
court.
come in here?
Give us FOII.
Oh, hold on,
I think that
let's see.
there is a major problem here. The president came back after about 103 days out of the country. And, let us even be kind enough to assume that, okay, maybe mistakes were made. But I would have thought that this would have been a wake-up call for us to take a very critical look at our health sector. Coming back to the issue of the president's son. And the health sector is a major issue. I am very concerned that Nigerians are not as concerned about our healthcare sector. When Bill Gates talked about human capital development, healthcare is a critical part of that. And it's a big conversation. And as even as a radio host, whenever we talked about health issues, people were not as excited as when you talk about corruption and you spill out. But the truth is, your quality of life has a lot and is directly connected to your health sector. And I would have thought this would have been a wake-up call for the president to understand that there needs to be a fundamental change in our health sector. But I'm tracking what happened in 2017. The first lady, or the wife of the president, as she is called, had a health scare and made comments about the
Let's hold.
But
Let's
the
hold up on that.
information-
We need to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. But other things happened, and there was a big hoo-ha when Atiku defected from APC to PDP. And most people are saying, I just like to hear from the two of you, most people are saying maybe that will affect Buhari's bid in 2019, even though Buhari has not told us one way or the other whether he's going to run.
Well, you see, Atiku moving to PDP has little or nothing, that will help PDP affect, clinch power. PDP as it is today is a shadow of itself.
It's in tatters.
Yes, in my former party, I do not see them as an opposition because they are not. I believe that the APC is having a field day today because there's no opposition in the country. It's quite unfortunate, but that is just the truth. As it stands today, the PDP is still not a credible platform, to ask the president. No matter the feelings of the president, yes, this president has, because before we thought that people used to lower the bar, but I believe that this government has, they fast dug the bar beneath the ground in almost everything. You can see the comment of the president when he went to Benue about the IG of police. The IG has not been removed. Look at the comment he made in Taraba. Almost everywhere the president goes to, there's a problem. So PDP, as it stands, cannot be an opposition. It doesn't offer. So Atiku's chances, Atiku will have just remained in the APC, in my own opinion, because he's going to PDP does not in any way enhance anything for the PDP, except if there's some rainbow coalition of some sort, and there's no time.
But given all of that, you will agree with me that this president has also made a lot of difference.
The president has not made any difference.
No, I mean, compared to what?
To which president? This president has not.
I mean, you were in PDP.
Hold on, this president.
The previous one.
You went to the previous one.
You see, this president.
Or to previous presidents.
Hold on, this president has so failed that the next government, all you need to do, all the next president of Nigeria needs to promise the Nigerian people is that I will take you guys back to when dollar was 180 naira during Jonathan. I will take you guys back to when rice was 12,000 naira during Jonathan. I will take. This government has failed.
Are those a yardstick? I mean, those are the benchmark for your.
There are so many things. This government has failed in security.
But look at what they inherited.
No, okay, hold on.
Look at what they inherited.
Hold on. If you say you have defeated, because they keep talking about fake news. There is no fake news that is greater than saying you've defeated Boko Haram. Same Boko Haram that you are negotiating with, paying ransom for abducted girls, offering them amnesty. Is that how to defeat Boko Haram? There is no greater fake news than saying you are fighting corruption. Same corruption that eats and dines with the president, because almost everyone that works with the president has either been alleged of one act of corruption or the other. The chief of staff to the president has been alleged to have collected bribe from MTN. Members of the president's political party have alleged this. The SGF to the president diverted money meant for IDPs. Money meant for IDPs. Of course. This government hates criticism. A government that has gone after journalists, arresting journalists, intimidating the press, intimidating the judiciary, intimidating the legislature. And look at what they have just done again. This is a government that condemns Amnesty International for saying the truth.
Let's hear what Stanley.
I would agree and disagree with Deji on different matters. Okay. On Atiku's defection, I certainly agree with him. I don't think that the APC would be hurt very much by Atiku's defection. And honestly, in my personal opinion, from what I see so far, barring any unforeseen circumstance, I think the 2019 election is actually President Buhari's to lose. It's up to him, because I don't think that there is any platform, not that you have an overwhelming sense of approval, but you would have to have an alternative. Mind you, he is a sitting president, and in the Nigerian experience, sitting presidents or sitting government officials tend to have, there's the incumbency factor, which is a reality. And in more ways than one, when we say incumbency factor, people think about, using state funds. It's not just that. You have media recognition, which makes it easy for you to be sold to a large extent. You have media coverage and all of those advantages. So the PDP, as it stands now, I think Deji said it all. So I don't need to add to that.
Okay.
In 2014, when Atiku left the PDP and joined forces, the circumstances were very different. He took along with him about 7 governors at first and ended up with 5. And so he was able to tear a large chunk. And then Nigerians were actually suffering from PDP fatigue at that point, because there was 16 years and they didn't feel that they had gotten the kind of change that they wanted. Now the situation is very different. Atiku didn't take any governors along with him. So.
I didn't mean for us to spend 9 hours on Atiku. You see, because one needs to look at clearly, as a radio show host, you need to look at many things based on the kind of feedback you're getting from the Nigerian audience. There is one that has played out that most people are not getting the correct response in terms of the funds that were looted and brought back into Nigeria. I have here last month where the EFCC acting chairman claimed that EFCC recovered over 500 billion naira. But in November 17, the amount that he also claimed at that time was 739 billion. However, the finance minister wrote to say, for clarification purposes, that for assets which were recovered, including funds and all that, everything was only 91 billion. So you can see the massive discrepancy in terms of what everyone is claiming. If Sambo Dasuki is alleged to have stolen $2.1 billion, and beautiful Desiani stole trillions. How can Nigerians take all these figures seriously when we cannot agree on actually what is stolen and what is recovered? And or are these funds being brought back and being relooted, or what's going on?
I think it would be important for Garba to take
maybe you can give us some more.
Well, but I won't start from here because first of all, no, Nigerians need to know the facts as they are.
Right.
I think that it will not be fair to mislead them on any given information. Yusuf Buhari had a bike accident. He was treated in an hospital in Abuja here. And the doctors were so upbeat about the success of what they did with him that they wanted to address a press conference. And I stopped it because I said, Yusuf is not an elected official, he's a private citizen. Yes, he's the son of Nigerian president, but beyond that, he's not accountable to Nigerians on matters of himself. So please stay out of that. And maybe they were not happy with me. That was they didn't do any press conference. He was treated in Nigeria. If he had traveled outside after that, and I wonder under what law then a private citizen banned from travel, there would have been an outcry if citizens of Nigeria were not allowed to travel at their own free will to go outside the country.
I need for him to comment on what I raised, and that is the.
But when I allow so much rubbish to be dumped on the government, we have a duty to offer a clarification.
We understand. That's why you made that clear.
I will
he
just
was
give
on
one
a private
example.
visit.
When you said president had intimidated or attacking judiciary, let me just give this example, clarify this. There's an ongoing war against corruption in this country. The sense that the president had after reporting some judges 3 times to the National Judicial Council without any action being taken was that they were not prepared to cooperate.
No,
they were not ready to. And so therefore,
why was Osache Lawa's home not invaded at night? Like they invaded the judges' houses.
And then, so they went there, and I think that at the end of it, what came out of all of those raids justified the raids. And these are matters, some of which are in court now. I don't want to go into. No, you don't.
Okay,
for you, Deji, court is not a problem.
But clarify this Magu's 500 billion.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
The information available to me.
Yeah.
The last time I received a document from EFCC, actually they said they had about 2.4. He said this in Switzerland.
Yeah. About $1 billion.
$2.4 billion US. That's what he said he had recovered in Switzerland at the international one get together.
That was Magu.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm also aware that in this year's appropriation, draft appropriation as presented to the National Assembly, about 480 billion naira has been injected in the budget. The president said this is coming from
stolen funds.
Yeah, that's a stolen fund. About 440 billion
yeah,
from stolen funds. So allow me to, and then you can.
You said 400 billion.
480
billion has been injected.
Yes.
From the.
But how do we appropriate if we can't even account?
What I'm saying is that, and from what I see going on between the finance minister and the EFCC, the Minister of Finance said she had asked a routine question of the EFCC to give account. Magu now, I think only yesterday said he had replied to the Minister of Finance detailing out all of the information. Have I seen that information? I haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, I think you have your own sources and they have theirs. What you wanted to add?
Yes, the comment I wanted to make that, you see, on the issue of recovery of funds. We wrote Magu in 2017, February 2017, and said a court of law in this country had ruled that you must make public all recovered funds, properties, and everything, and you should make it available on the website. So we wrote Magu. We wrote Magu 3 times, February, March, and April 2017. The movement wrote Magu. Magu declined on all the 3 occasions to disclose to us or even reply us. Because Gabriel was talking about FY. We have written Magu. These people have not recovered any money anywhere. It's all propaganda and lies. And you see what Kemi Adeosun has pointed out.
Yeah, but
hold on.
The reason
why we are challenging them is we want them to prove us wrong. We want them to prove us wrong and bring real. We want Magu. We challenge Magu to a debate, or anybody in EFCC to a debate, or the public or the communication director in EFCC to a debate on this issue of recovered funds. My parting shot is very simple. Dear Nigerians, first they came for the judiciary, you did not say anything. Then they came for the legislature, you did not say anything. Then they came for the press, you did not say anything. Now they have come for several other people, including journalists, including Tony Ezimoko. They have arrested people and intimidating them to shut them up. If you refuse to say something, next they will come for you and there will be nobody else to say anything for you. Thank you and God bless.
Yeah, personally, I think that President Muhammadu Buhari has made some difference, a level of difference as far as governance in Nigeria. But there is still a lot of work to be done. There are so many Nigerians who are less than satisfied with the way governance has gone. And he has very little time. He has less than 6 to 7 months to prove to Nigerians that he deserves a second term in office. And in order to do that, he has to communicate better, he has to connect better with the people, and just probably be able to make a solid case as to why he should have and he deserves a second term in office.
Garba, you have the last say. Tell us.
Well, the thing is that I think there is a lot of rhetorical noise going on in the country. And sadly for what is happening today is that, you know that in the past, even at the rhetorical level, corruption was not even condemned because it was seen as being normative and it was accepted as being normal.
But they created
and
all
so
the
therefore,
agencies.
this government understands that it is not going to be easy to fight corruption, to rid this country of it, because the forces that have thrived under corrupt practices are so energetic, so powerful. They have so much resources, the kind of resources that even the government doesn't have. So they will fight us. Yes, but we will survive because the ordinary masses, the poor masses who line up under the heat of the sun to vote, no, those are the voters. Those are the real Nigerians.
Garba, thank you very much. Deji, thank you. Stanley, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, no one in his right mind can blame Nigerians for somehow being in a hurry to see their lives improved. If the leaders of this great nation could make 1/10 the sacrifice they routinely ask Nigerians to make, our situation will probably be different today. Without apology to any single individual or group of individuals, we shall continue to do our best to put both the governed and the governors on their toes so as to ensure that in years to come, our posterity will have a better country to call their own. The year 2017 is gone, and there is nothing we can do about the past. But we must not repeat the mistakes of that seminal year. Neither should we fail to take advantage of the lessons it taught. This is Shola Ajay signing out from Top of the Summit. See you next week.